Hey, magical souls, what's up? I hope that you're having a great day so far. Thank you guys for actually listening to this. There's a lot of information that I take the time out to share through audio just because it's so much easier for me. And I feel like it brings the words to life. And that's what I'm all about. But I thank you guys for opening this and for listening to it all the way through. Those of you that do, and if you don't, then you might just want to listen to this all the way through today. This is something that I have not, I believe, shared before to the public. And when I woke up today, I went to start washing my face and brushing my teeth, and this story came to me. And I felt like I wanted to share it because I feel like it will be also freeing for me. And so I want to share this with you guys. And I'm already getting teary eyed, by the way. But I'm gonna share this story, and I had to use chat because I was just like, I want to do a disclaimer, but the disclaimer that chat did, it wasn't good enough. I was like, no, I gotta. So I'm gonna give you guys a disclaimer right now. This could have your emotions everywhere. By the end of it, yeah, you probably will feel a lot different. I know during a lot that there's a lot going on in the world right now. So a lot of people they don't want to hear about stuff like this. And I'm not going to apologize for it because when I feel something it's for a reason, and I never know who is meant for or who it's always meant for me first, I believe, but then also I share it with others. And you never know how this resonates with someone or the educational part of this. A lot of times I might start off with something that has a strong title that gets your attention. And as you continue to listen and throughout, you'll see the brighter day. So we might start off in the shadow, but the light always comes because there's always a message, even if I have to start off with the explanation. And sometimes the explanation or the story that I give as a storyteller, it can be pretty hard to listen to. This was hard for me, but I wrote down the date that I first started working on a song to express my feelings about this story. And I looked it up today and it was December 5th, 2021. So just want to let you guys know this is a story that I've wanted to tell every February, every Black History Month. I'm not oblivious to that. I do know it is. I have my own way of, you know, I just, I'll explain that maybe you're doing it live, but I do know that it is. But I want to just get into this story, and the title of this is Her Story, My Body, and Our Voices. So first, I want you to take a deep breath with me. I need one too. So, but this is a disclaimer, so I hope that that was good enough. But so take a deep breath with me. Breathe in and out. Take another deep breath in, putting one hand on your heart chakra, your chest, and out. All right, you guys. Okay. So as you guys know, it's Black History Month, and a while ago during a session that I was having with myself, whether it was I don't know if it was meditation, or when I was doing a past life regression on myself, um, or it could have just been just during this time in my life, I received so many images that would come into my head. Um, just a lot of things were just happening during this time in my life. In 2021, it was very significant for me. Um, so one time I remember either seeing an image of a woman or I don't even really know how it came about, you guys, but all I know is that um, one thing led to another. So after I received some information through either a meditation, an image I saw in my head, or something, whatever it might have been. Not long after that, in October, I went and I did. I believe it was September or October in 2021. That's when I went and did a Reiki classes, right? Reiki 1 and Reiki 2. And during this time when I did my Reiki sessions, it was a girl that was there. And this girl, she came off pretty strong at first, her personality, like she was, a tough cookie, right? You can feel that energy from her, but also this soft and kindness. And so, as we were going around the table expressing ourselves, and talking about Reiki. I'm not even sure what happened, but at some point she ended up expressing, and something just ended up coming out of her, and she ended up talking about a part of her personal experience. And I don't know how it happened, but when that happened, it did something to me. She was talking, and I got up. I was the only one around the table. We were all around the table. I got up and I immediately went over there to hug her, and just she started crying, and I just felt like I felt this energy of her needing love, and whew, yeah, she just needed so much love, and I can feel it like it was yesterday. Just hugging her and just how gentle she was, and it seems like she just really needed love. And so it just so happens that after that experience, we were partnered and put into groups to practice Reiki with pendulums, and she was my partner. And it was hilarious because I'm like, now, how in the world, she's sitting across the table from me at the other end of the table. And when we all had to get up and stuff, we ended up being partners. But I tell you, that was the best thing because it allowed me to hear more of her story, and intuitively just pick up on a few things. So as we're doing the pendulum on each other and stuff like that, I'm just like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out. And we're partnering, and we both are like trying to figure it out together. But I started talking to her a little bit more about her story during that time and even after. And she started opening up a little bit to me. And I think that she ended up just wanting to really connect with me, like, oh my gosh, I feel connected to you. She gave me her number. Matter of fact, this is coming up to me as I'm speaking because I totally forgot about this. I was trying to talk to Nate to get as much accurate information as I could before I shared this story, because that's what I always try to do. I know why I do that too, and I can explain that, a different time, but it's definitely connected to past different experiences, in other timelines. But I wanted to make sure I gave you guys accurate information. So I talked to him, but this part is just coming up. So she gave me her number, and I remember hearing her story. And this beautiful woman, she was proportioned a certain way, okay? Her backside, I don't know what all I can say because I want to put this on YouTube too, but her backside was, just, it'll make sense in a minute, but it was, very large, and not really sure how to describe it, but her body makeup was just really different. I hadn't seen anything like that before. Like, it was just really different. It stood out to me, and I started listening to her story, and she started telling me about how she was in the music industry at one point. She was I think she was getting into film, starting her own production company before. And by the way, if you're listening to this, I love you, sis, and thank you so much for allowing me to share this story in this way. And I haven't spoken to her in years, by the way, you guys, but I know that this might circulate. But so she ended up telling me her story, and she ends up telling me more about how many people, especially men, would just kind of be drawn to her because of her body makeup. And she really couldn't get far in the music industry. She really couldn't get far or taken serious with her different gifts that she had, being an artist and different things like that, and a different form of an artist as well. And also starting her own like production company or something like that. And because people were so distracted by her body. And that really made me sad. And she was telling me about how they only look at her as a, SEX symbol. And she was very upset about that, but she started to use it for her power. So she started to create these gatherings, these videos, different things that she might do, using that as the forefront to get people to listen to the knowledge that she really had and wanted to share. So she said she would use her body to get people in the door, to get people's attention, because that's what they already would, pay attention to. And then after that, then she would come in with the education. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, wow. So we continued to have a conversation. She was actually going to be working with me in a project that I was doing at the time, but I think that things happened, and she really needed to. She was going through different things and stuff like that at that time, and I really talked to her. She's cried. And different things like that. And then she introduced me to another lady later on that actually helped me with my was a teacher in the pilot I did for the Magic School for Kids. So that was great. But I think that after that experience, it really became very clear to me that she was of the lineage of someone very significant in history. And I researched this woman whose story moved me so deeply, and her name was Sarah Baartman. But I believe that her her African name might have been Saarji, if I'm saying that correctly. But she was a South African woman who was taken from her homeland and displayed in Europe because of her body. If you guys are not familiar with the story, please, if you look it up, take a breath first, because this, I'm just now speaking about this like this, and it's 2026. And this story first came to me in 2021. Her body was seen, it was humiliated, she was humiliated, um, her humanity was really denied. And I'm gonna move into how chat breaks us down, because I didn't really know how to share this story, because I knew that it would probably be long. And I just remember bits and pieces. But I was so taken back that I wrote a song about it. I did a meditation. I cried for a while. I don't think I could sleep. It really moved me. Um, but like I said, let me tell you a little bit about her story, you guys. Like I said, she was a South African woman. Um, and when I learned about her life, like I said, I cried. But I was really touched by it, because this story, this, guys, hold on. um, Let me process this really quick. All right. Okay. I told you guys her name. This happened in the early 1800s, and exhibited in Europe because of her body, right? She was basically on display, objectified, dehumanized. People paid to look at her body because her body was shaped a certain way. She had a large backside and her chest, and it was just different things. I don't want to go like all into detail about that, but I just want to tell you that basically, her body was treated as a object, and she was actually in a circus, and where her body was displayed. Women like her, they were stripped of dignity, identity, their voice, humanity. And sometimes when we talk about empowerment, we forget that what women have survived, especially Black women. Um, and, you know, I don't know why I felt this is rising. I don't know, but it came to me. And with her story, I don't even think that chat really does it justice, but let me just go off of what I know. And basically, she was made fun of. She did end up having two children, and I believe transitioned early in life. She transitioned early in life. I believe she was only 26 years old. But what really got to me about her story, right? It was definitely about how she was treated with her body, right? Everybody was looking at her. I mean, they got to have crowds that would come and pay to just, or come to just look at her, right? And then also intimately, groups of men would just come and be able to just look at her and touch on her with no clothes on. And you know how that goes, right? Over and over and over. Where she was at first, I think her story starts from her being like, I think she breastfed someone's children. I don't really know what they call that. I don't really want to look it up right now, though. Um, but one thing led to another, and she ended up going to a place where she was actually free. And somehow she was persuaded or forced, I don't know, whichever one, to go to this place and use her body for money and for whatever the case might be, because it was just so interesting, right? So she end up being in this certain place in Europe, and I believe where she was at first, it was very disturbing to where I believe she was a part of like a court case or something where they wanted to ask her was she being forced to do what she was doing and different things like that, and she denied it. But back then we know, that that doesn't mean that that was true. She could have been forced to say that. So eventually she ends up being sold to someone. And I don't know if that was done behind closed doors, but she ends up being sold to someone who had the circus, and she was treated very poorly. Matter of fact, at like 26, she ends up dying from something that she had, some illness that she had. But in my mind, I had these clear images of just, it was as if it was a movie, like when I traveled during my meditation, and I could see a lot of things, and I was livid. Like, I was like, I mean, I don't know if I just, if it's because I tapped into her energy by looking her up, by, everything like that, and just kind of being like, oh my God, but I did. And it was like as if I traveled in time and was there, and to see the anger, the frustration, the loneliness, the confusion, she was young, guys. She transitioned at 26, very young. And I just need to express this today. Because every February, I know it's Black History Month, even though, we celebrate, just all throughout the year, just celebrating who we are, period. I don't limit it to a month. Like, I just celebrate who I am and who we all are, just all the time. That's why I motivate people, inspire people, and uplift people the way that I do, and help them see the beauty within themselves in that way, because of this. But I always wanted to release this track that I created from that experience, from her experience, from what I learned. And it was called His Story and Her Story. And I told myself in 2021 I was going to release it in February, right? And I didn't, because I was trying to record it and I could barely get through the entire song without crying. And I mean, I don't care how many times I sang it, how many times I practiced it, I couldn't get through the song. So the following year I said, all right, it's 2020, 20, the next one, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put it out in February. I didn't. Every year I plan to put this song out and Her Story out in February, because I really didn't hear enough about it. And it changed my perspective on how we operate. I mean, it took me down this rabbit hole of how women bodies are objectified, and even, just the whole era of, you know, um, twerking and doing all these other type of things that have to do with that area, and just a woman's body, especially our Black women's body. And so it led me down this rabbit hole, and I end up watching this documentary or video or something about how women were made to dance, and how, bringing them over from Africa to where they were, some women were split, right? Were split up. There were a group of women that were split to do certain things, and women that were split to do other things. And they were made to dance. They were made to, because they already had this type of way that they dance, right? And it was looked at, but it was looked at in a way through a man's eyes as something not sacred, not religious, not, culturally based, but it was looked at like eye candy. And I feel like if people knew more about where that came from, maybe we wouldn't have so many of our Black women out there doing the very same thing that they were taught to do way back then, and to just be eye candy. So at first, I went through this whole journey of just being angry and upset about how the world became and how people don't really understand the story behind that. Also, I remember people were I was watching this video that was talking about the Victorian era and how they had these I don't even know what they're called, Brussels, or I gotta figure it out. But they wear these dresses that have a hump in the back, right? And I wish I knew the name, but how I think that happened after the story of after this woman's story that I was telling you guys about. And it was like a mockery, I feel like, her her body. Like those women back then, now we want to have big butts too. Now we want to create dresses where we have this abnormal backside and be have people, we want attention, right? So it just it goes on and on, right, down this rabbit hole. So of course, you guys know, being connected to that, I was like, oh my gosh. But what got to me was that this lady's body, Saarji's body, or Sarah's body, was displayed after she transitioned in a museum. And when I found out that her body was actually displayed in a museum, like her real body, guys, I'm not talking about a wax figure. Her real body was displayed in a museum all the way into 2000. I think it's 2006 or 2009, something like that. But in the 2000s, guys, I was like, what the what? That really got me. Until later on, they released her body from the museum and allowed her body to be buried peacefully back in Africa. So, guys, I'm telling you, this story was really hard to digest, and thinking that it took that long for people to come to their senses and realize that we don't put human bodies on display, even after they've transitioned. And I was like, you know what was it like? Why did this come to me, this rising? I started thinking about that. It led me to also my school, right? When I was in school, my elementary and middle school, it was called Catherine C. Blackwell, and it's located in Michigan, you guys. And the owner of the school was named after her. And Miss Blackwell, she was actually an educator, and our school was African based. It was African American history was very prominent in our school. We recited many different poets like Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, and many other people. We had to recite that at the beginning of class. We just it was really culturally yeah. It was really amazing. And when she came, her presence was known. She also was highly decorated with awards and different things like that. She's actually in the I believe it's called the Charles Wright Museum of African American history, that museum, the Institute of Arts, and the Wright Museum as well. But she's in that museum, you guys. Her information, she's on her plaque is on the wall, as a person, of history, right? Because of all the things that she's been a part of with bringing African culture to the masses. So just imagine going to a school where your owner, you got to meet her in person many times, and actually she is featured in a museum of African American museum where because of all of her awards and what she's done in the world, right? And then she transitioned at 94. And so I just wanted to say that because it just allowed me to see just throughout my life how this has been like a prominent thing, but it's opened me up to just the knowledge and stuff that I have about certain things. But she came up to me too. So I think I was just trying to figure out like what is the message that I'm supposed to bring to people today without this being like so long. But spiritually, um, I was just trying to figure out how does this tie into what we're talking about. We've been talking about the goddess awakened. We've been talking about the queen energy, the empress energy, and I'm going to be doing a live on this Saturday talking about Queen Esther, and I wanted to talk about what what was this? How did this, you know, what was the importance of this today? And one thing I realized, I was talking to Chad, and it was talking about emotional and nervous system layering. And it was talk about when we encounter a story that hurts deep injustice or grief or silence in our nervous system, it stores it, right? Especially if it resonates, like body image, voice, visibility, expectation, dignity, or being misunderstood in some way, right? The mind will revisit unfinished emotions when it's ready to process more of it. And recently I've been thinking about maybe I should have released that in February. Maybe I should have released it. And I even thought about that this year. Like I could have released that this year, every year. So I think it just subconsciously came up this way. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Because when something moves you enough to cry, or like for me not being able to finish the song, it stays with you, and that means that it wasn't really processed fully. So I'm letting you guys know that sometimes when you don't process things fully, it will come back up, right? We know this. And then it's like when it's not processed, now it's time for us to do the work. Now we figure out, okay, what is this tied to, right? Because the body remembers what the mind tries to move past, which is why a lot of times we feel like we're stuck. We're like, hold on, wait a minute. I think I revisited this before. Why am I still stuck with this? Um, so basically, it could have just been my system revisiting something meaningful. You guys, during this time, I didn't know how and why this story was coming to me. But I know that um, it's connected to my ancestors, and this was when I was doing a lot of past life stuff, a lot of meditations and stuff. So I'm not sure where that fits in, but I know that it's important to share. So I feel like how this ties into what we're going to be talking about soon. I'm going to give you guys some journal prompts as well for this, because I feel like just reflecting not on her story, but just reflecting on um, just this energy, right? Is important. This energy of when things move us that way, we don't fully process it, and then we just let it go, and we move on, and then we keep moving on over and over and over, right? But I remember how maybe her story resonates with you in some way, you know. Historically she was humanized, right? But then we're bringing this Queen Esther energy, the story of courage and voice and strategic leadership. And I think that we're moving from trauma to empowerment, right? So if you've been dealing with any type of trauma centered around your body, centered around feeling displayed or feeling taken advantage of, or anything like that, whether you're a male or a female, it doesn't matter, because it happens to, you know, I feel like almost everyone in some way, right? And so we're moving into this empowerment stage, and I feel like this is just a sign of moving past trauma, moving past those things, knowing that, you know, that story was meant to be that story at that time. I connected to it so much that I let it affect my present moments, and different things like that, and it took me a while to process it. And so for you, I'd say if it's been taking you a while to process something, to let something go that's happened when you were a child, or that you have felt deeply within you, process it. Process it. You know, this is an example of moving from silence to that voice speaking up. You know, this woman, it didn't seem like she was able to really speak up. It didn't seem like she had a voice. It didn't seem like she had a choice. It didn't seem like she was even looked at as human. We have an opportunity to see ourselves now. We have an opportunity to speak now. We have an opportunity to release those things and become free of the things that hold us back, that bind us to one mindset, to one thought. It's not about hating anyone else of a different race, of a different culture. It's not about that, because even though we reincarnate, you guys, we aren't living that time now. It took me a minute at that time, and I've always been about all cultures. It took me a minute at that time to just really not let that affect my present moment and how I view everyone else. So really look within yourself today and ask yourself how many things from your past and those past experiences, or experiences that you've heard that you haven't even had, that others have had, that you've allowed to, you know, come into your present moments and disturb your peace. Think about that. to come and take over your present moments, your day, your week, your month, your year, your years, your years. And we are alive and well. And so I just wanted to tell you guys that, because this Saturday I'm going to be talking about Queen Esther. And Esther was also in a position where her voice could have cost her everything. She could have stayed silent. She could have stayed safe, but she chose to speak. And because she spoke, lives were changed. And I'm speaking right now. And so I know that maybe somebody's life will be changed by this. Maybe somebody will look and say, you know what? I'm not that experienced anymore. I'm thinking about like India Irie was like, I am not my hair. I am not this skin. You know what I'm saying? I am not your expectations and different things like that. You know, you're not your past experience. That was an experience. You don't have to stay there. Throughout history, we get so attached to everything that happened to our ancestors. And I know we reincarnate, so a lot of those things, we can feel it much deeper. We can feel it on a soul level because maybe we've been those people before. But don't attach to it so much to where it messes up your present moment, and you isolate yourself from the world. You isolate yourself from different cultures. You isolate yourself from being free the way that you can be, the way that you desire to be. Don't let it stop you from embracing all kinds of people. I don't care if they believe something different than you believe. It's time for us to rise above all the limiting beliefs, all the mental blockages, all the separation. Although we remember what has happened in history, although some of us, we still encounter things that remind us of that are still happening now in the world. Don't let it get in the way of the purpose, the purpose, the the reason your soul chose to come. Remove the hate. Remove the hate and enter into love. And when you enter into love, you're able to express yourself in a new way. Not telling you to forget, not telling you to, um, make that experience minuscule or whatever the case might be. But when you've processed it, leave it where it was, because that was meant to be where it was. And right now, you're living in a brand new day. You determine what that brand new day looks like, right? So, although Esther could have stayed silent, you can stay silent. She could have stayed safe, you can stay safe, right? Her voice, what she spoke, what she said, it could have cost her everything. And sometimes we're in situations where we feel like we have to people please and we have to say the right things the right way. We have to look the right way. It's like, it could have cost her everything, and still she still spoke because she knew it wasn't just about her. She spoke, and when she spoke, lives were changed. You know what I mean? So any women that are listening to this, and even men, if you're listening to this right now, I want you to love on your body. Matter of fact, I want you to give your body a hug. Give your body a hug and just love on your body just for being it. No matter if you feel like you feel pressure to lose weight, you feel pressure to gain weight, you feel pressure because you're just looking at your body and you don't really like how it looks, or you're hard on yourself about it, whatever it is, this is a moment to stop and love on your body for who it is right now. For what you have right now. Love your body. Love yourself. Because even if nobody else does, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. So on Saturday, we're going to talk about preparing before you speak, using strategy instead of fear, right? Stepping into that moment, those moments that require us to use our voice. In her story, in Sarah or Saarji's story, it reminds us of what was taken. And Esther's story is coming to remind us of what can be reclaimed. So if you're feeling the pull to rise, to speak, to lead differently, join me on Saturday, you guys, and let's talk about courage. Let's talk about preparation. Let's talk about what it means to use your voice wisely, to step into power, even if it feels like you will be misunderstood. Let's be grateful for our bodies. Let's cherish the life that we have. Let's not hate from our past experiences because it won't solve them. And it would actually eat your nervous system alive. And that's how I like to say, I was like, it's going to eat your nervous system alive. Maybe that's the lesson, right? Because her story should remind us that when dignity is denied, it leaves a mark. So, I'm not trying to relive that pain, the pain of our ancestors, the pain of all those experiences, even our own, my own. This is about honoring where you are right now, because those very things can keep you down and in the shadows and not putting yourself out there. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys 3 journal prompts, and feel free to listen to this again or rewind it. But number 1 is, where in your life have you felt seen but not valued? Where in your life have you felt seen but not valued? Number 2, where am I holding anger that's exhausting my nervous system? Where are you holding anger that's exhausting your nervous system? And I'm going to do another one. What would gratitude for my body look like this week? I'm going to give y'all a bonus. When I said 3, I'm going to give you bonus 4. What would gratitude for my body look like this week? And number 4, what does using my voice responsibly mean in my life right now? So think about that. What does using your voice responsibly mean in your life right now? And I want you to take a breath while you're writing and take your time. All right? So I will see you guys this Saturday. We're going to talk about these things. Remember that your body is sacred, your voice is sacred, your life is sacred. So honor the past by living fully now. I'll see you guys on Saturday. Remember that you are magic. So today, be magical, spread love, share your freaking story, because you really deserve to be heard. You really do. And someone out there is waiting to hear from you. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this. And let me know how you feel in the comments about this and how you're going to rise, how you're going to honor yourself moving forward. All right? I love y'all. Peace.